Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic. I'm kind of crushing it this morning, so I figured why not connect with everyone before I go to therapy. And yeah, that's how I'll be starting my morning. Therapy. But yeah, this new experience of giving a fuck less and not giving a fuck. Figured why not explore it a bit more. Did want to say thank you to everybody who viewed the last video and everyone who commented. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the support, the feedback, the communication, right? And so I'd like to clarify that I'm not talking about apathy, right? Where apathy is something that makes us lose gravity with other people. We start to fall outside the orbit. What I mean is that, because I do give a fuck about people. I give a tremendous fuck about people, even though people drive me nuts and I think they're dumb all at the same time. I'm like a walking amalgam of mixed feelings. But what I mean is, I can't care what a dumbass thinks anymore, right? And by cares what they think, it's more, it's a bifurcation. So one, is there any truth or veracity or validity or soundness to whatever they might think? And then two, what kind of bullshit and nonsense do I have to deal with because of what they fucking think? Right? So those are the ways in which, like, I don't usually put too much value or attribution onto things with regards to what other people think. If anything, I feel like I'm always fighting the influence, because no matter how much we try to say that we don't care what people think or that something doesn't affect us, any input affects the system. So that being said, there might be, subconscious or unconscious impacts that people don't really notice. And that's something that I might try to get into in another video at some point later. Because it's something that's kind of insidious. I'm trying to think about like an example or a way I can kind of paint a picture for you right now. And I'm at a little bit of a loss at the moment. I guess one of the things is like the hypocrisy of the idea of fuck your feelings, because you put the person who's saying fuck your feelings in a different position where they're not dominant or in power or in a position to be comfortable saying fuck your feelings, and then suddenly they want somebody to give a shit about their feelings, right? And so when I say like I'm not giving a fuck, let's take it interpersonally. Let's think about, conversations and interactions with, our fellow person, our fellow individual. And this is something I got called out on recently, and I responded very, very clearly, but simply somebody kind of tried to tell me that I was disagreeable. And that's not untrue. If I think that you're off base on something or there's something that I don't agree with, I'm going to let you know. What point is there in interacting to creating a false consensus? So if somebody, say for example, I'm talking with another man and we're talking about like interactions with our girlfriends or something like that, say one of us is having an issue, typically it's the other man that wants to be like, oh, well, women, and then categorize women in a certain way. And more often than not, when I come across that, whether it's men doing it or women doing it, I find it to be inaccurate. And I find it to just kind of be part and parcel for how society tells us we're supposed to interpret things. Because a lot of times I have to tell people, especially, other dudes, when it comes to talking about women, I'm like, no, it's not just women, because I can deal with the same type of issue with a man. It just shows up in a different way because my interaction with them is going to be different, because there's the underlying thread of mating is not there for me with another man, right? So there's certain variables and parameters that are not the same, but that doesn't mean that the behavior overall that we're talking about in a given moment is relegated specifically to women or to men, right? And when this person told me that I was disagreeable, and that was one of the points that came up, I said, would you want me to agree with you when I don't? Like, that gives you false validation. And if it's coming from, if you trust me and that's why you're telling me these things and I give you false validation, then I did you a disservice. So in that way, I don't give a shit and I don't give a fuck if people find me disagreeable, because it's for a greater purpose than me just trying to be disagreeable or be an asshole. When we say things, even when we have opinions, we want the opinions in some way to reflect the world and reality. This is why we use quote unquote facts in order to substantiate our opinions. This kind of comes up in my mind because I've had people tell me, when I push back on something that they say and they want to, or not even push back. Like I could just have a contradictory opinion and just share it. Like it's not even like I'm trying to have a debate or anything like that. I'm just like, oh, well, I happen to think this way. And people will say like, oh, that's just my opinion. It's like, well, yeah, but you used this fact and that fact and that fact, and those were all logical reasons. They were all premises for you to draw your conclusion. This premise over here is fucked up. I'm letting you know your premise is fucked up. Like I'm helping you out, you know. And since people can't, understand that, that's not on me, that's on them, and I don't give a fuck. So that's kind of what I mean. That's what I'm getting at, is that some of the ways in which I would try to default to being nice, I don't give a shit. Like I'm gonna be kind, and it's not like I'm always, picking apart everything everybody says. But it usually comes at a very particular point. So for example, if somebody says right, and it's not as a filler word, in between thoughts or anything like that. Um, when you ask me that and you pause, you open the door, you crack the door, and I can walk through or not. And a lot of times I do walk through. It's like we want to connect, we want to interact. Sorry, I'm a very, 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 very critical thinker. So the nuances are only, increasing in degree, and they're only increasing. So, um, and then with regards to myself and like not giving a fuck, it's the ways in which I tend to be hard on myself that, I'm just not giving a fuck anymore. Um, and a lot of the ways in which I, am hard on myself, some of them come from inputs from, say, like societal pressures. So to be perfectly candid, I was asked, like 8 years ago by my mom to move back in, which is not something that usually happens, but she wanted my support. And so I live with my mom, I live with my sister. And for a long time, because of the society we live in the US, I had carried shame because of that. There's this expectation in society that dictates, you're supposed to have your own place and, follow these, follow these trends, and you will be looked at in a certain light. And, I feel that I don't deserve to be looked at in the way that people do happen to see me because of my situation. To put it in, sloppier terms, like it's like I'm not a man, right? Now it's all bullshit, it's all nonsense. But it goes back to what I was saying about any input that we get impacts us, even if it's on a subconscious level. This is why I'm always bringing up cognitive biases. Cognitive biases happen and take place and work their magic on the subconscious level. This is why I'm always going to encourage all of you to look up heuristics and to look at a list of them and to meditate on them and to see where they come up in your life. Because these heuristics, they come up and play a role in every conclusion that we draw. And this is another reason why I, I, I penetrate everything with my mind so much. It's like, what's really going on here? If I'm really checking my biases and really trying to be um, as objective as possible, like what can we really get out of this? And there's so much less than we think. At least that's, one of the conclusions that I've come to as I continue to fall down this, philosophical rabbit hole. So, all that being said, good morning, everybody. I think I'm going to go ahead and close it up here, take care of a few other things before I go to therapy. But again, thank you all for being here, for just bearing witness to this process and to this journey. I think that one thing I would like to do as an active practice of not giving a fuck is just try to have, a week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks where I just post, like even if it's all, I guess I can't really say that my shit is slop because I'm trying to talk about things in depth and authentically and with sincerity, and I'm not trying to just appeal to what people want to hear and be entertained by. So um I'm still going to put out a whole bunch of these. Like, they might just be random diatribes, but they're definitely not slop. So that's funny. It makes me feel good. Well, all that being said, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Please feel free to share. The more the merrier. Let's make it a party. I think it's funny when I say let's make it a party because I'm not the party type. But anyway, but yeah, I just hope everybody has a great day. Be good to you, be good to others, and we'll see you next time. Peace.